Hi and welcome to Naresh IT. I'm Muniba here and I have before you a set of other questions to handle your interviews or how to face your interviews. Now today what we have what I have before you is the questions on behavioral skills. Now what do you mean by that? Here it means the interviewer is trying to look at your people skills and how you behave in particular situations. So why this is an important part of your interview questions is because here they want to know how you are as a person and how you actually behave in particular situations or when you are amongst different kind of people. So here what we do is we'll go through a few questions and we'll see how to answer these. Now the first one is what makes you angry, right? Or the other way that they can ask is what irritates you in people. So you can trying to give similar answers to these. So what makes you angry, like if there's a particular situation where you're working in a team and where you feel like people distracting you when you're doing your work, you can talk about that. So here for these kind of questions, try to be as honest as possible, wherein you're showing that yes, if such a situation comes before me, I'm able to handle that positively and confidently, okay, and not get really bugged and irritated so much that it affects your work. So here you can say like what makes you angry? It's like when I do not accomplish my work on time or not able to finish in time, that may make you angry. But do not say like it's like people like talk to me, I get angry. That is not a good skill to talk about, because here you're trying to say that you cannot adjust when you're working with people. Now what irritates you in people is, many people say when people tell lies, that irritates me a lot or that makes me angry a lot. Now you can answer a question like that, because if you don't tell lies, then you can say okay fine, when somebody tells lies I do not like that. But here it could be very simple, like somebody when they are distracting you when you're working, that irritates you. So another question that can follow this is, you can say okay fine, what do you do when such people like are with you or they irritate you? How is your reaction? What do you do at that time? So again try to be honest, like you say I try to ignore these kind of things, but yes, it does irritate me because some way or the other it affects my work. So it's very simple to say that. Now what was the toughest decision you ever had to make? Now here it could be anything, like you can talk about, for example, taking your engineering course or taking a particular field that you are into. Probably like many people told you don't take that, that's going to be very risky, or that's not your field of interest. So here despite all these negativities, you have still chosen to enter that field. You can talk about that, or anything that you feel you've taken up which was with a lot of negativity and people have actually stopped you from doing it, but still you took it as a challenge and you did that. You can talk about that. And it could be anything, like for example you chose a particular job and many people stopped you from doing that, but your instinct tells you like you can do better in that company or better in that position. So you can talk about that. Same question is, what was the toughest challenge you have ever faced? It could be in your life, what you faced and how you've overcome that. Or you can talk about like if you're already working, then if there's any challenge you faced during your project. For example, you were just given 1 week or 10 days time to complete your project, and that could be taken as a challenge. You can talk about that. Now these two questions are very important, and believe me, 90 to 95% of the people are not in a position to answer this question. Because when I have conducted many mocks, when I ask this question, they always tell me, can you repeat the question? Can you say what life skills are? Can you say what work ethics are? Now these are very important questions because they are about you. They are about you as talking about you as your as a person that you are, and about your personality. So the first one is, what are your life skills? What do you talk about this? Now first of all, let's understand what are life skills. We all possess skills, right? We have hard skills, we have soft skills. Now what are hard skills? It's all the technical skills that you have attained over a period of time. You can say your technical knowledge is your hard skills. What are your soft skills? Now soft skills are again your behavioral skills, or you can talk about your personality or about your attitude. So here when you say that, these are the skills that are required to actually overcome the situations in life or the difficulties in life, or to lead life in a very positive and an effective way. So this is what we mean by life skills. Now what can we talk about? Here I would say, do not choose what anybody else says their life skills are. you should be sure what your life skills are. For example, I can say my life skills are my confidence, my good communication skills, my interpersonal skills, or my patience, my perseverance. I can talk about all these. Whenever you're talking about your life skills or your work ethics, you should always be able to give an example for that. Like for example, I can say my life skill is my confidence in myself. So I can say I can talk in front of people, I can approach people, and I can express myself confidently. So I can give an example like that. So whatever life skill you're talking about, see to it that you actually exhibit that, and you are in a position to give an example for those life skills. Okay. Now what are your work ethics? Now work ethics are, again, it's like, what are ethics? Ethics are your values. So when we say work ethics, we say the values that you take with you at your workplace. So when you're working, now can you say like, I am a lazy person, that's my work ethic? No, that is not going to help you at your workplace. So do not talk about your negativities for your life skills and your work ethics. So your life skills can be your work ethics. That is possible. So you can say like, my confidence, my time management. Now that can be your life skill, and again it can come as your work ethic. So when you're giving this as your work ethic, it can be any number. Now when we are talking about R, they're talking about plural number. That means you don't have to give one, you have to give more than one. And when you're doing that, do not give endless number of work ethics or life skills. You can just stick to 2 or 3, that's more than enough. Now whenever you're giving these, please see that you can give a valid example if asked for. They usually do not ask for it. For example, if I say confident, then they'll say, where have you shown confidence, or where have you shown that skill of yours? So at that time, you shouldn't go in a thinking mode, you should be in a position to answer those questions. So here it's all about life skills and work ethics. Please be sure, because believe me, this is a very important question and many are not in a position to answer this question. Okay, so we'll move on to the next questions now. Okay, let's continue with the next set of questions. The first on the list is, tell me about the most boring thing you have done. Now here you can consider anything that you've done boring and where you really didn't enjoy doing it. It can be like, watching a movie where you did not understand anything, or it could be anything where you just wasted your time, and if anybody listened to that, they can say it was very boring. Like for example, you can talk about like, you went on a trip where you did not enjoy at all, and because you were forced to go there. It's anything like, because these are all your life experiences that you are talking about. So there is no hard and fast rule that I have to say only this or only that. No, you can give any answer which comes to your mind. But only be careful that when you are answering these kind of questions, try to be very responsive and very quick. Because here you should not be taking so much time to answer these questions. These are all about you, and you should know yourself inside out 100%. Next one is, tell me about an embarrassing moment. Now it could be a very funny moment where you felt embarrassed, or probably like you were walking down the street and you slipped on a banana peel, and that can be an embarrassing moment. Or you were doing something, people like, all of a sudden you did something and people started laughing for that, and that caused you a great bit of embarrassment. No problem at all. So you should have a good sense of humor. You should laugh at yourself. You should see that others can also laugh at you. No problem at all. But are you that kind of a person or not? That depends entirely on you. Next is, tell me about a situation when your work was criticized. Now why they ask this question is because to see or to check how you handle criticism. Now many of us do not handle criticism in a positive way. We say like, okay, this person said this to me, I'm not going to take it lightly, I'm taking it seriously, and you mess things up after that. So here it shows like, if somebody really criticizes you, do you take that in a positive way? And if yes, if you do that, then what are the measures that you take to bring about a change in that thing that you've done? For example, if somebody says like, no, your presentation wasn't good, you need to make changes in this. Now here, if you are a very positive person, you say, oh, yes, I do agree, I accept it, and yes, I think I'm going to make these changes. But if you're very adamant and if you're stubborn, then you're going to say, no, I don't think my presentation is wrong, and there's nothing wrong in that. So here for this question, I would like to say, accept criticism and say like, yes, where you were really, criticized for something that you did, and you accepted that and you took that as a challenge to make changes in that. All right. Then the next one is, looking back, what would you do differently in your life? Now again, why they ask this question is probably there are certain things that you did in life, you regret doing that, or you feel like, you should have chosen a different field rather than getting into the engineering field, you wanted to get into the, finance sector. So it could be anything that you want to talk about. Now, need not be just related to your academics, it can be your personal life as well, like where you've done something where you shouldn't have. For example, you moved from Delhi to Hyderabad. Now, do you regret that? Do you think you should have done differently? Now, this question is very important because when we say looking back, we are talking about the past, something that you did in the past and you want to change that, or you think you should have done that differently. Do not think about something that you're going to do now or in the future. This is all about your past. Okay. So now when you're talking about these behavioral skills questions, these are very important part of the interview because when they ask this, they look for your spontaneity, how quick you are in your answers, how effectively you answer, and how concise your answers are. Like you're not elaborating, going on and on to give your strengths or your weaknesses or your any skill that you did. So here, keep in mind, you have to be very short and to the point and listen carefully so that you are in a position to answer well. Okay, and make it an impression that you have understood the question. And yes, anytime you have not understood the question, do not make the mistake of just going with the answer doubtedly because you're not sure. It's always better to ask and let the interviewer know that you haven't got the question clearly and you have some misunderstanding there. It's always better to accept than to go about unknowingly. Alright, so we'll move on to the next set of questions after this. Well, the next set of questions that we have is give me an example of your creativity. Now it could be any creativity you've done on your job or on your project or during your school days, college days. If you're very artistic, you can talk about that. Or for example, you can say I give very good presentations, I make very good presentations, or I'm very good at arts. Anything like that you can talk about. What are your outside interests? Many people get confused. They don't know what do you mean by outside interest. It was a very old question. They used to ask, what are your hobbies? Tell me about your hobbies. So in other words, these days they ask, what are your outside interests? Or they can even say, what do you do in your leisure time? So it's like whenever you have leisure time, do not say I don't get time, but they expect you not just to be good at work, but good at all other things in life. So they expect you to be a jack of all, good at everything that you do. So you can talk about a lot of things, but please do not say my hobbies are listening to music, watching television, making friends. Those have become very outdated hobbies. They don't want to hear something like that. So for this kind of question, if you're really good at pursuing good things after work, or whenever you get the free time or when you have quality time at hand, you can talk about I love gardening, I enjoy photography, or you can even say I love spending time with with children at orphanages or old age homes. Anything something that interests you, and that would be a really good hobby that you can pursue. So you can talk about that, or you can even talk about I love learning languages, so whenever I get the time I try to learn new languages. Next is, tell me something about yourself that is not in your resume. Now here this is a question where many people get tense because what should I say, because most of the information I've already given in my resume. What do I do now? So here what you have to do is think about something that you can talk about which you haven't mentioned in your resume. For example, you did a course somewhere which is very helpful, which you've not mentioned in your resume. You can talk about that. Or how were you throughout your academics in your college or during your school time? You can talk about that. Or you can talk about a personality trait of yours, how you are as a person and how that has really influenced you in your life. Anything, but see to it that that shouldn't be mentioned in your resume. So they want to know precisely what's not there in the resume, but still many people tend to make a mistake. They talk about something which is already there in the resume. Please do not do that. Next is, how do you feel about reporting to a younger person? Now why they ask this question is because they, for example, in the future, if you've been working and for example your boss turns out to be much younger than you, so how do you feel reporting? Many people do not take it in a positive way, or the approach isn't positive. So what they say is, I cannot report to a person who's younger than me. So usually here you should be more adaptable and you can say, yeah, I find no reason or nothing wrong in reporting to a person younger to me, because here it's absolutely fine, because it's more about the teamwork that I look for, and whether the person is older or younger doesn't make a difference or doesn't matter to me at all. So I think most of you would be like that, so that shouldn't be a problem for you at all. Okay. Now we have a few more questions. After this we have about very simple questions which I'll discuss, and after that I'll discuss once they think you are suitable for the company and what are the kind of questions that they can ask you. which many people are not in a position to answer because they're very confused. They feel, if I answer this, like, do I have less chances of getting placed, or like, are they going to reject me? So we are going to clear that doubts in the next set of questions.